John Weiden. I live here in the neighborhood, and I told John I would be more than happy to formally introduce him since this is our club here. John, I'm trying to remember, I think we met, even though we're neighbors and we're about 4 doors apart from each other. It seems like in this neighborhood, you meet people when you walk your dog. And as a result, I think I probably knew the dog's names first before I knew the people's names. But John and Nikki and Nikki's father, Mike, they were dog walkers. So that's, I think, how we initially met. John was part of the Bible study group we started back here, men's Bible study. Mike is also a member of that group. So that's how we kind of got to know each other. John mentioned that he had a book. Obviously, I grabbed a copy of it and read it and enjoyed it. And I've got a lot of respect for someone who can balance a family life, a professional work life, and be an author. So obviously, he's got a calling for that. It's a passion. And reading this book, it's a story, but it's a story of a journey. To me, it's what keeps you engaged in the process. And I think in life, we all are going to come across roadblocks and hazards along the way. And I think John does a really good job of talking how he can get through some of those hazards and really how he turned it into a happy ending. I also appreciated some of the 70s television references that are in there. I know there's a lot of people, probably people in this room that go by different names that were in the book. At the same time, at the beginning of each chapter, you have a little quote. And I've used some of those quotes along the way because I always enjoy those. There's some really good motivational quotes there. So with that being said, this is John's night, so I'm going to turn it over to him. John.
Thank you, John. One moment while I put this on. Hi, everybody. So, thank you, John. John is a neighbor, and the gentleman that I'm about to bring up that's going to kind of take us through the evening and host, he was also a neighbor. So they all represent sort of different phases of our lives, you know, and I say our because it's been a long time since I've just been a me. And so my family's over here as well. And what we found is that everywhere we go, basically the Lord sends us people. And so in this neighborhood, one of the people was John and his wife Sue. And so they're great neighbors and they made us feel welcome, even though I think they may have even gotten here after us, but we were sort of shut-ins for a little while. I have another neighbor, Christie, who also lives in the neighborhood and has made us feel welcome. But the gentleman that's going to start us off is Rick, and he is in the book as well. And he appeared at a time when we think of the book being about breaking, building, belonging, I would say I was right at the crux between the building and the belonging stage. And I didn't quite know what it was like to have a community. There were some people that were starting to show me. One of them's in the room here, John Walker. We were just new to a church here in the area. But this gentleman, Rick, that's going to come up and talk with us, he showed up at my door. And he showed up at my door hat in hand, is the way that I describe it in the book, because the way that I always picture him back in those days, we lived on a cul-de-sac, and he always had this gardening hat, because the man likes to work in the yard. He likes to garden. He likes to kind of cultivate and grow things. Secretly, he also cultivates and grows people and relationships, but we don't tell people that, right? But showed up at my door and knocked and said, I'd like to invite you to my house. I have this great video, and it's called Love, Sex, and Dating. And I want to bring your children, your boys, into the house. And I want you to come too. I'm like, oh, okay. But that was his way of introducing himself to me and to the world of faith. And who would know that that guy that started out as an agnostic before he came to the door would someday be a Jesus follower. And that's part of the book. But as John said, it's about a bit more than that. It's about stories. It's about character portraits. My sister Dorothy is a triplet. She's sitting in the audience. And some of my kids are here. And it's all about, kind of think about some of us that are of a certain age, We know the song, these are the people in your neighborhood, the people that you meet each day. It's sort of like that. It's all the different characters and all the people all through my life from an early age that I've met along the way. And I didn't realize that they were voices that mattered to me and that really were important. And so I decided to write a book about that. But at the urging of people like my sister and people like my wife that said, hey, you need to kind of tell a story of the breaking part and of the challenges that you faced early on in your life. But when I sat down to write that book, it became clear that I couldn't just focus on that I had to focus on the things that kind of brought me full circle. And some other folks are in the audience here that have been part of that journey and part of building that community, people from my work, people from my community, and of course, like I mentioned, my kids and my friends and family. And that's why I ended up calling it Breaking, Building, and Belonging, because it really is this story arc that takes me all the way through. So I don't want to talk a lot about my book. I feel like that is enough for me to kind of stand up here and talk. I do want to answer questions about it. And I do want Rick to kind of guide us through that. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Welcome, Mr. Rick White. He does not have his hat on today.
Oh, you got to sit for a
Yeah,
while.
I'm going to sit down and shut up.
I just thought I'd for the crowd.
Yeah.
Can you do that dance that you did on your front porch that night?
Yeah.
Where I was asking you.
It was
and
kind of
you
like
were
this. It was kind of like, we're not home. Yeah.
Well, you never
Something
know
like
how
that.
the Lord's going to use things, right?
That's right. That's right.
I was concerned about your boys.
Yeah. You were looking out for that.
I was.
And I was like,
Absolutely.
what is he going to talk about?
Oh, man. So we've known each other for a long time now, John.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a very enjoyable journey, and I certainly cherish your friendship and appreciate your leadership in the church leadership team, and it's just been a wonderful journey. So thanks for the invite for tonight. Let me pull out my questions for you here.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. What do we have for you? So it took a lot of courage to write this book.
Yes, sir.
It's not easy to unpack the past. It's not easy to grapple with those things and then bring other folks into it and then talk about the learnings. If I wrote a book like this and had some of the things about my family in here, it might not have gone as well.
They're all still talking. I think they like that I feed them. I think that's the main thing.
So how did it go with the family when they all read the book and things of that nature? How did that go?
Oh, that's a really good question. I had a mixed result as the family read the book. There were some people that were incredibly supportive of the book. You know, my sisters, my nieces, and obviously the close family. When I first wrote the draft, though, I have to admit that I left a lot out. Because of all the things that Rick's saying, when I wrote that early draft, I didn't have a lot about my family. I didn't have a lot about Nikki. And that was because I was nervous because of all the stuff that Rick said. I was scared to feature them. And then when they read the draft, their reaction was, where are we in this book? Where is Mom? How come this book has more of our pastor, Jen Williams, in it than Mom? And I'm like, your mom's a very private person. I did want to put a lot in there. And they're like, we need more Mom. And we all want more of us in there. And I was like, okay. So every child has a chapter and their now spouse. So that was really cool. That was really rewarding. And then when I wrote about my sisters, I already had an existing blog post. And it focused a lot on the fact that when we were kids, we didn't have a lot, but we did have a little bit of TV. The TV was fuzzy. We had to do the antenna thing with the aluminum foil that some of us remember and others may not, but to get it to come in. But one of the shows was the Charlie's Angels. And so we used to play Charlie's Angels all the time. And I was not Charlie, because I'm not cool enough to be Charlie. I was Bosley. And they were the Angels because they were triplets and there were 3 of them. And so I wrote the chapter about them. And I had to do a full arc for all 3 triplets and their kids, all in kind of one chapter, and be economical. So I say all that to say that that was some of the feedback I got is, you should have told more of those stories. And I said, hang on, there's more books coming. There's more books coming. So there will be more that I get to share as time goes on. And then the only other one is that there were a couple of people that were a little upset with some of what I wrote, because some of what I write in the breaking part is very real about trauma that I experienced as a kid. And so not everyone loved it when they read it from those times. Yeah.
So let me just say there was a couple of people that came in just as we started.
Yeah.
You guys can get food too. And so,
Yeah.
so help yourself, okay?
Go ahead. And thank you for being here, by the way, all of you.
Okay, so who's the book for? Who did you write it for? Who was in your mind?
Yeah, I thought about sort of, everybody sort of likes to mirror themselves a little bit when they're, you're speaking from your experience, right? And when I think about one of my bigger struggles that I've had over time, it's been this fact that I've always sort of had this servant's heart. I remember when I was very poor and we were living in kind of a shack, I thought, maybe I could be a butler, like Batman's butler, or maybe I could serve. That's what I could do, but that way I could have some money. So I tried to do that with people along the way. But I also, over time, realized that I was the kind of person that sometimes would pour so much out that I ended up empty, and that I ended up sort of even more broken than the broken days. And so I realized that one of the things I learned as I grew in my community, as I got more friends and voices in my life, like my in-laws and my friends and even my kids, I learned how to be a lot more of a wholehearted leader, someone that could serve but still remain whole. And I thought, this is really important to tell a story that has an arc that talks about the fact that you can come from a broken place. You can build things up and kind of climb that first mountain of what people consider success. But you might end up burnt out. You might end up where you have nothing left. And a lot of people need to understand that it's only through people surrounding you that you can survive something like that and then go on to thrive. And so I wanted to tell that story. And then the other part of the story toward the end that I wanted to tell was that everything isn't perfect. Everything isn't Instagram. Just because you live in Coosaw doesn't mean that everything's going to be ideal. And so that is one of the reasons, to Rick's point, why I chose to illustrate, and with my kids' graciousness and my wife's graciousness, that things have not been perfect for us in a lot of ways. We've had illness, we've had trauma, we've had all the drama of love and hurt and anguish and, all kinds of things that everybody experiences. And I wanted to make sure that it wasn't like this nice little bow that we tie on something, and that it tells that full arc of the story. I'm not short answers, sorry, I'll work on that.
You're not. That's why the book's long.
That's why the book's long.
And there's another one on the way.
There's another one on the way, but it's going to be shorter, I promise.
So in the book, you talk about Stunnoid.
Stunad.
Stunad.
Yeah, Stunad.
And Colonel.
And the Colonel.
When
yeah.
did they come into existence? Or those are just terms you used in the book to talk about the voices in your head?
I think that's a twofold answer, Rick, but I'm going to try to make it short. Stunad and the Colonel were not real voices in my head, but I did have a lot of inner dialogue. And I was just always one of these people that had sort of that metacognition that they talk about, where you're thinking about your thinking. Even as a little kid, I was one of those weirdos that thought about what I thought and how I thought. And in a way, that sort of caused me to move away from God for a long time, because I overthought the whole thing, right? Like some of us do. And so they weren't real voices, but I did have that Stunad. I did have that constant person hating on me in my head that was telling me I was garbage, basically. And so Stunad, even though he's fictional, is real. And the Colonel was sort of that better angel. But I just used him to really represent, I don't want to spoil anything, but I used him to represent the better voices that we could follow. And I did have a lot of voices that were speaking into me over time in some of the stories. But I wanted to use an archetype like that. Yeah. That was shorter.
That was much better. You're teachable.
I'm teachable. That's the T in CHIT you'll hear about. Go ahead.
What I like about the book is a story of the human condition. We all have voices in our heads. We have doubts, we have concerns, and we've all lived with them all of our lives. When you feel like you're not worthy of God's love, when you feel like you're not worthy of what you have, or you feel like you don't belong or you don't fit. I don't think those are unique to any one individual. I think it's a human condition. At some point in life, I doubt there's anybody in the room that didn't have thoughts like that or may have thoughts like that now.
Right.
So it was a great illustration of that.
Thank you. That is who I'm trying to reach.
Very good.
You said it much better and more succinctly than me.
So if I can, I'm going to call up our next panel.
Yes,
See,
that would
or
be
do you have
wonderful.
some more pontification?
No,
that
I
you want?
think I'm good on the pontification. That's why I made it a panel, so people wouldn't have to hear me drone on.
So let me introduce Christie McElfresh. Christie, come on up.
Yay. To everyone.
Right in the middle of you.
Come on.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll give you the mic.
Hi.
So, Christie, when you read the book, you told me that you had some people in mind that said, golly, gee, they really need to see this. What came to your mind, and who were those people, and why did you think that they needed to read?
So truthfully, I think anybody needs to read the book. I enjoyed it so much. I met both these guys through church, but after John realized who Christ was. So I've only seen John in the belonging stage of life. And John made me feel like I belonged to our church. But so when I read it, I was amazed at everything that he had been through. But I feel like all of us go through so much in our life and have this good angel and bad angel on our shoulders. I told Rick this morning when we were just conversing over this that, I have two brothers that unfortunately don't live here, and one of them I'm really not close to, but have gone through some major trials in their life. And all three of us grew up my mom and dad, class family, gave us everything that they could, worked hard. I didn't suffer for anything, but yet there were definite times in mostly my brother's lives that they did have that bad angel or Stunad that was telling them that they weren't worthy. And just to see how anyone can still have the people that come into their lives that remind them that they are worthy. All of us are worthy. So I just think that really the book is for anyone, but namely my brothers who won't read books. So as soon as John narrates his book, they will listen to it. But yeah, so those were the two that came to my mind when thinking about the book.
So what was your personal takeaway from the book?
My personal takeaway is, wow, some of the things that you did overcome are unbelievable, eye-opening, and to see where you are now and how much you give. I just think that sometimes when you have been broken that much, it's really hard to overcome. So to see that you did overcome it is amazing, but that can be anyone too. Yeah, I think in the past 2 years, I went through losing my job, and John was between both of these guys. I guess both of them were my mentors of how to get another job. I just think it definitely gave me a sense of belonging of I was just a person at my previous position, but these guys, my family, my friends are really who I belonged to. That reminds me of who I am and my worth. So I think that hopefully answers that question.
Very, very good. Very good. So you know John and I pretty well over the years. Was there a portion of the book that you laughed at us?
Yeah, John already told it.
Sorry.
I read the book. First, I had no idea that you guys were neighbors.
Okay.
I did know that he brought you to church, or made you feel more belonging to church. But I did not know that the first interaction was to come over and
Right.
watch a video on love, sex, and dating.
Right.
Holy cow. I'm not sure I would have gone over there with my children. But it was an Andy Stanley video. So
Right.
if that
Yeah.
makes anyone feel any better.
So
it was
accessible.
really good.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah, it was.
Should John bring back these bangs?
Of course.
What do you think,
Right.
guys? The bangs again?
I think, yeah. I also used to have a spiky hair too. I could do that. If y'all want. I don't know if Nikki will let me do either one.
That was probably what, in the 70s?
That
Yeah?
was 1979-ish.
Okay. Well, I
80.
mean, my parents got married in
81.
73. My dad had definitely the longer sideburns and maybe a little bit darker.
My grandmother, she used to cut my hair, my bangs,
Yeah.
and you can't see just how messed up they are because she would just go with these big sewing shears, and they would just make this noise, this crunching noise. Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Before I bring up the next panelist, I want to open it up to the room. If anybody has a question for John, Christie, and myself.
And my shoes were falling apart. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't read the book, but I know every word. I lost my wife for a week, except when she was tough, but I got her back.
Thank you.
So John, I understand there's another one on the way.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
So the next book is full of CHIT. That's CHIT. That's right. And actually, I learned that at a church conference, believe it or not. But it's very similar to the memoir in that it's all about kind of getting out of that other it, the SHIT thinking, and getting into the CHIT thinking. And so it does not have all the same stories. It has some new stories in it. There's some people in the room that are going to be in the next book. And it just kind of takes you on that same kind of journey of like, how do we kind of move away from that kind of stunad thinking and kind of get into the kernel kind of thinking so that it can be a little bit more of a posture for us going forward. And even though, again, this one's kind of geared towards servant leaders like yourselves and like some of the people I look around this room, I see so many amazing servant leaders, and that's what it's geared for, is people that are constantly pouring from that cup until it's empty and there's nothing left, and they're just so stressed and strained and full of the wrong kind of it. And so what I want to do is help them fill their cups full of CHIT instead. So that's
So
what
the
book's about.
acronym stands for?
Curiosity, humility, intentionality, and teachability. And that's why Rick said I was teachable earlier. He was foreshadowing, we call that in the author business.
Oh. So I'd like to introduce our third panelist, James. I'm gonna screw it up, James. James
Shoup.
Shoup. Okay.
Mr. Shoup.
Mr. Shoup. Here. Let me move my stuff here. So James, you work with this guy, right?
I do,
Every day.
just about every day.
God bless you.
Right?
Yes. Thank you.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your work relationship and how you and John work together? You can talk about this acronym that we just talked about too, in terms of, is that really a real thing, or is it a made up thing, or do you guys actually teach that?
John does teach that class. So John has 27 years at, are we allowed to say, Paul?
I usually don't say the name of the company, but
In
you
corporate
said
America.
it. Yeah.
John has 27 years there. I have 18 years there. But about 3 years ago, I took a new position to start teaching a class called Leading from a Growth Mindset. And that's where I was really introduced to John. I'd see him around the facilities and then always had pleasant exchange with John. But John was an HR guy. I'm not an HR guy. I'm a production guy. I was on the floor. I season my words a lot. John doesn't season his words. I was always very leery of that. And then there was this young lady, Lisa, that really introduced us and said, hey, James, you really need to start talking to John. He's got this foresight. He's got this mentor mentality that you need to look into. And so I started talking with John, and we had a lot of similarities. Like I said, he's an HR guy, and I was trying to stay as far away from that as I could.
I understand.
Yeah, after just having conversations, and then we went out to Seattle to teach one time, and it was probably one of the best classes that we've ever had, and we just connected over so many things that we didn't even know we had in common.
Very good. So you read the book.
I have.
Yep. Why did it resonate with you?
To be honest, I picked up the book, and when reading through the breaking part, I had to put the book down. It was too much because there was too many of my own wounds that I hadn't overcome yet. And then he asked me about the book, and I was like, oh boy, I better go read it. So I picked the book up. I had a class out in San Antonio, and I left out of here in Charleston, and I finished it by the time I got to San Antonio. And I was texting him on the plane, hey, chapter 25, 26, and 30 all resonated with me. And we have way too many similarities from people that come from such a different world. So that was really that brought us even closer than what we are.
If you're comfortable, do you want to tell a little bit of your story? Or?
Yeah, I can do that. There's a part in the book where John talks about he was living with Graham, and his mom came back and said, hey, it's time to move back home with me. And John said, no. I had that same exact situation happen to me. And then my mom wrote me a letter telling me how I abandoned my family. I didn't see it that way, and I don't think John saw it that way either. It was a place of security where this is where we belong right now. Excuse me. But yeah, that was one of the key similarities that we had.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for sharing.
Oh,
What other takeaways did you have from the book?
I really enjoyed the stories that he was telling about his family. the Charlie's Angels. I think when I walked in the room, I said, hey, you're Rick with the straw hat.
Cul-de-sac Rick,
The cul-de-sac
straw
Rick,
hat.
yeah, straw hat.
You name it.
The way I could just see so vividly the way that he wrote, I can see that. I can see that. And he is very good at what he does. But yeah, the way that he described his family, Nikki, his kids, Noah, it's having not met them, any of them until today, I could vividly see exactly what John was portraying.
Well, I think that's a good segue into our fourth panelist, Owen.
Owen.
Noah. So most of you know John's son. He's called Owen in the book. It took me a while to figure that out, though. I was trying to say, is that Grant?
That was the idea.
Yeah. He didn't disguise my name. He just said Rick. I always put the address in there and everything.
I'm going to publish your Social Security in the next one.
Wonderful. You might after tonight. I'm not done yet.
Exactly.
Noah, you saw the early drafts and you saw the final drafts, and you like one better than the other. Talk about that.
Sure. So I've known the author for about 28 years now. You know my father, you know that he likes to share. So I think that this is a great example of that. But myself and other family members and friends received various drafts of the book. I mean, the copy they see on the table over there is also a really good version. But I think what I wanted to share was when I read the first draft. My dad did something that I've seen throughout my entire life, which is I've always thought of him as kind of an encyclopedia of knowledge and mentorship. Even though I roll my eyes a lot, and my brothers do as well, and he kind of teaches us about life lessons and things. One of my dad's superpowers, in my mind, or just strengths, is being able to take in information from the books that he's read or YouTube videos or just other people and be able to incorporate that in a meaningful way to teach myself and others in terms of specific situations. And that's what the first draft, I think, had a little bit more of. A lot of the different books that I knew about that he had read and videos that showed me or told me about.
Right.
And I listened most of the time about the concepts and stuff. It all kind of clicked, like, oh, I see. He's kind of taking what he's learned and used it to reflect on what's happened in his life.
And I can tell you from reading in the book that some of the advice he was giving you, marital advice and whatnot, he watched a lot more Andy Stanley videos because it was straight out of Andy.
Right?
Submissive.
A lot of Andy Stanley
Yeah,
stuff.
it was like plagiarism type stuff.
Yeah.
No. So you were growing up in this environment, and you knew some of the players, some key people in the book. Describe what that was like as a kid. Did you see what John was describing, or were you kind of oblivious to it? What was it like growing up and seeing all these stuff?
I think both my parents, but mainly my dad, was trying to make my brothers and I as oblivious as possible to the various aspects of his life and hardships. I know that whenever my brother and I would argue about where to go out to eat, he would turn the car around and drive us into his childhood neighborhood and kind of say, if you're arguing over this, imagine what it'd be like having to worry about just having food on the table. I think that, sorry, what was the question?
Let me interrupt. The reason Shoup's laughing is because I tell that story in every class. And it's the triggers section of the class because it triggers me when they argue, when it did. It's all past. But when they used to argue about going out to eat, all I could do was transport myself back in time to living where I could see the Burger King and smell it, right, Dorothy? But never go to it. We live there. This is how the Lord works. He's got such a sense of humor. We lived across the street from a grocery store, literally, and a vegetable stand. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. That's why I get triggers. That's why I get triggered.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
felt like I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
They tried as hard as possible to kind of make it very blurry what had happened, and then reading through the various chapters in the books, knowing of the people that were being written about and the various stories. I know when I first read it, I was like, wait, she did that? I didn't remember that, or I didn't know that. So I think it just kind of helped me gain more perspective into my dad's life.
Okay, very good, very good. So you're featured in the new book. Have you read the drafts? Tell us a little bit about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the new book because it kind of has more of what I was describing with the first draft of the book over there on the table. I like that it kind of is more of a deep dive into not just the stories, but like I was mentioning earlier, a reflection of the stories and the characters. I know my dad lovingly has described me as irrational, which I don't know where he got that from. I guess Apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right?
Yeah. Besides that, I think that it does kind of help, honestly, for me to even process certain things in my own life, and I hope that it'll help others do the same with how my dad has taken the knowledge that he's gained over the years and incorporated it into sharing those pieces of the story.
Well, I know your mom and dad are very proud of you and proud of CC and all the people that you boys are becoming.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we've got just enough time now for some questions from the floor, and I can walk around with a mic, and here we go.
I don't need to.
You don't need a mic? Okay.
John, I'm curious, when did you decide that you want to write? And have you always had as a kid, did you like to write? Were you a creative writer? Tell me a little bit about that, sir.
I liked to read. And one of the things that my mother did give me was books. We had some books around. One of the first books I read when I was about 13 was Alex Haley's Roots. And it had a profound impact on me in so many ways. I ended up, I want to go into it because I'm long-winded in my answers, but let's just say it had a profound impact on me. And one of the ways was the idea that you could get transported and you could live and walk in someone's shoes that you could never, ever hope to really understand in any other way. And so that was like one of the first sparks. And then another spark that I had was when I went back to school as an adult and I went to community college, I had an instructor, her name's Ms. Moffitt, and she just saw something in me. And she had me write a character portrait that the story of someone that actually appears in the book. His name's Duke, and he was my best friend's dad. And I won't give away what happens to him in case you haven't read the book, but the folks that have read it know it was pretty tough. But at the same time, I experienced something that I wouldn't have experienced. And so I put all that in writing, and it had a profound impact on the family because I shared that story with them. It also had a profound impact on me because I was very poor. My ex-wife and I were kind of struggling, and I had gone back to college. Michael, my oldest, was too, and I won a $1,000 scholarship for that story. And $1,000 was a lot of money to us back then. It was like almost a whole semester tuition. But she really sparked this idea. And then she was one of those voices that said, you can actually do something with your creativity. You don't have to just be, I was enrolled as an engineer. And I actually switched majors and became a psychology major after that because she saw me and not who I was trying to be and who I was pretending to be. And so that really sparked it there. And then when you really talk about the evolution, I started writing a blog, and I was very inspired by our pastor, Jen, who was writing a blog at the time. And so I just started taking all the stuff I was processing as a new person to faith and everything, and kind of learning these lessons and putting it into my blog, right? And so I would write these short form things. And then before you know it, I was writing on the blog, I was writing at work. I used to publish a weekly story. I'm looking at some of my people I work with. Just see other folks back there too. And it just grew as far as this desire to put it all in. And now here's the real kicker. My sisters and my wife were always like, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law, they were all like, why aren't you writing a book? Why are you writing a blog? And I would be like, I can't write a book. I can't write a book. Like, it was beyond me, the idea that I could actually put all of it into some kind of coherent story. At some point, I got enough confidence to kind of put it all together. And I ended up taking pieces from all of those experiences, including the blog. There's a lot of the blog stuff that ended up in the first book. Yes?
I've got questions about the actual.
Yes.
One thing.
I self-publish, yeah. As I learned about the two worlds of, there's a couple of different ways, there's 3 different ways to go pretty much when you do a book. You can either beg and plead a publisher to publish you, which is a years in the making kind of effort most of the time, where you have to write to them and say, hey, adopt my story, all that kind of thing. Or you can do this middle ground, which is called vanity publishing, where you, if you have money, you can like somehow come up with 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand, and you can pay somebody to publish your book. But basically, they're self-publishing it for you. And then there's self-publishing, which you do on your own. And nowadays you can, I won't say easily, but you can do it. You can publish on your own. And so I looked at it and I kind of researched it, and what I figured out was that even if I got a publisher to pick up the book, odds were it wasn't going to become the next bestseller or anything like that and sell thousands and thousands of books. So I thought, I'm a new author. I'm going to just start self-publishing, and I'm going to learn how to do this myself. And Nikki was very happy because it didn't cost that much. And we were able to break even on just cover design and that kind of thing. But that's the process I took. And then I taught myself, if that's really your question, I just taught myself how to do it. And some of it's okay and some of it isn't. Like my daughter-in-law that is a social media communications guru will tell you I probably didn't set up the Amazon the right way on that kind of thing. But yeah, it's out there. When I really in earnest started writing it, I was just looking at this because of some of Noah's comments. Like I probably started in 2023 in real earnest effort, putting it together. And then I published near my birthday in August of 2025. So about 2 years, because I had to learn all of it and put all of it together. And like he said, I had this whole other idea about the book at first. Yeah. Go ahead. Okay.
Talk to me about the whole, talk to us. But I just have to say that in full color almost, like it like truly was like written almost like you can see it on the screen. So So I really could just see it all when I would read it. It
Well,
just
thank
looks
you.
so realistic to me. The question that I had for you is, if you could sit with the person that you were when you first started writing it, what would your advice be then to get to that person?
So the book opens. Oh, yeah, thank you, thank you. So the comment was that this is my wife's oldest and dearest friend from West Virginia, and she said that she was reluctant to read the book, but when she finally did, she felt like it was watching a movie, basically. That's a shorthand version of what she said. Then the question was, if I could go talk to my younger self from the breaking, what would I say to that younger self? Which is a tough question. Thanks, Donna. You're out of the second book. Right? Rick, you can't undo the fact that you're in the first book. Okay. It's out there in the world with your straw hat and everything. What I would tell him is that you can't predict the future. As wise as you are, even as a young person, and as much as you've learned how to look around corners for things that might be dangerous or people that might be dangerous, you don't know everything. You're full of the wrong kind of it. And you don't know what the future is going to bring. We're really bad predictors of the future, young John. And you think you know everything right now, but you really don't. And by the way, God's real. Yeah, probably that. But he wouldn't have believed that. He was pretty mad at God. Thank you. Marcia. The other Mrs. Johnson. Yes, that you do have that reputation. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
And the John Johnson in the church world looks like an elder. That's what we call you leaders in the
Okay.
church. You look like an elder. So encompassing of all of you, how do you read?
I almost want to ask Shoup to answer this question. When we're in class together, is there something that I do that helps me connect with people that when they first look at me, they think I'm very different than them? Is there something that
You get down, you lower your water level is what we call it in the class. He gets very vulnerable with them, and he tells them his story right off. As soon as the class starts, within the first 5 minutes, John's in there telling a story on how he can relate to each person. And it brings the class, it just, their confidence level in people goes up. We start building trust right off the muscle. And by the end of the class, everybody's going up, shaking John's hand and saying, hey, from an HR guy, you're all right.
I think he answered it better than I could, but I try to do the same thing with everybody. Yes, sir.
Basic environment, but it doesn't, and I think those of us that also are Christ followers, you're part of the family. Which is the voices you just heard in this room by themselves. That's not a thing. I got to tell you. And anybody that thinks that that's a thing, they're aiming at the wrong thing for success. And so the way that I got through it was really by being crushed by that whole thing, by being crushed by this idea of pursuing something that wasn't real, that wasn't of God, that was more about myself and my ego and things like that. And so when I came to and this is church language, when I came to the end of myself, that's when I really gave up that whole victim garbage and started thinking more in terms of how I could pour out to others instead of what things were about me.
And that began the building process?
And that was like, yeah, the real building process instead of the false, because the first building process you think you're in is, I'm going to build this career, I'm going to build this great family, I'm going to build a comfortable living where my kids don't have to worry about the Save a Lot or the Burger King. That's the building you think you're doing, and then you realize that that's basically like some of us are old enough to know, an old Western set with a cardboard cutout, and I could easily just be blown over. Yeah.
That brings me
Yes.
everything's just there. I'm thinking there had to have been that sparked something in you to make you feel that you didn't have to stay there. Does a person come to mind?
I think the hard part is it's not one person, certainly not a human person. It definitely was God. But God had surrounded me by so many people at that point. It was a really interesting, the point in the book where this villain, I even call that chapter, Villains, Valleys, and Vicissitudes. I love alliteration. So the part in the book where I reach that valley is where I encounter someone that really kind of says, basically, you're not worth a lot. You're not this guy that thinks he can do all these things. And they kind of start breaking me down. Now, that was out of their own insecurities, but at the time, I was so trapped, I couldn't see that. Now, at the same time, though, there were people like Rick in my life, and there were people in my church community that were coming along, and my poor in-laws and wife and kids who were all trying to tell me and love on me and my family and my sisters. But I was a little bit more blind to all of that. And I would say that as I was learning things from like Andy Stanley, like we talked about, and Jen, they were the teachers in my life that were teaching me about other things. There were people in the church community, people that we don't even have in our church anymore, that were teaching me how to belong. And so that sort of came to a crux, right? Where I was learning about belonging, I was learning about this thing that I was so adamant against, God and community and faith, at the same time that I was sort of being crushed with my ego and everything like that on the kind of the work front. I guess
My
you could say.
favorite part of the book,
Yeah.
is just a couple of sentences, is when Nikki told you, I don't want to do eternity alone.
Yes.
That was a turning point.
Yeah. Nikki disputes that chapter. No. She did tell me that, and it did happen. But I think it has something to do with whatever she was wearing or her exact words or something like that. But, yeah. But it's how I remember it. Did that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, not a short answer. I
Yeah, but
apologize.
there's
I know you said that
always-
me.
We always have people that made a difference
Yes.
at some point.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. All right. Any other? Oh.
Do you offer private mentoring if you know someone that may be able to benefit from like needing one-on-one with you?
Yeah, I do. I have a Calendly schedule. Everything's on that Linktree site there. So anybody that wants a book time, I've got sessions and things like that out there. So just go to that Linktree. Oh, you want to talk about P-Pop? Oh. That is, yeah. So thank you for mentioning the bookmarks, Miss Betsy. Miss Betsy doesn't know it yet, but her name is in the next book at least.
Betsy, just so we don't have to try to figure out who it is.
Cut to the chase.
Yeah. But she was asking me if on the bookmark, that one that has the guy in the sunglasses, that is Dominic DeMonico. That is my P-Pop. And now I am lucky enough to be called P-Pop by my granddaughter, my 2-year-old granddaughter. And then there's another bookmark that has my grandmother and my tripled sisters and me. And then there's another one that talks a little bit about the CHIT, full of CHIT. Yeah, that's my gram. Yeah, Josephine. Now, her maiden name was Margalai. And so I changed all these names in the book, but you're getting the real names now because you're a person. But the names in the book are a little bit different just because I don't know why. I was trying to disguise people a little bit more.
Except for Rick.
Except for Rick. Rick's Rick. And Jen's Jen.
The one thing that I'd just like to share with everybody is that you don't ever know what little things do, what little invitations, little conversations might do in somebody's life. And have the courage to do it. If you see them, you pay attention to the people God puts in your path. Pay attention to them. And if you're being called to do something, then do it. The Lord's telling you to do it, do it. and just see them where they are and invite them, talk to them, recognize them, bottle water, invitation to church, whatever. Don't be afraid to do it. That's what we're here for.
That's right.
So, all right, we kind of run out
Yeah,
of time.
I think
You
we're
got-
at book
You got some
signing.
book signing things?
Yeah.
Okay. How's that process gonna work?
A couple things. So take the bookmarks with you, share, keep them, share them, all that kind of thing. If you're telling somebody a story about the book, that's really the best way that I can sell books, is for you to talk about it, word of mouth. Another way that helps is if you leave a review. If you read the book and you leave a review, that would be wonderful. And you can just go on Amazon or Goodreads, leave a review.
Change your
And
name.
what's that? You can change your name. That's right. I do, exactly. Say Rick White. And the other part is that I have to say, for legal Amazon self-publishing reasons, it must be an honest review. I cannot ask you to do a good review. I can only ask you to do an honest review, which is what I would ask you to do anyway, right? And it's just as good to leave an honest review that has a couple critiques as anything else, because then it's more real, right? So feel free to do that. And then if you know anybody that wants a book, I do ship them. So any book that anybody buys here is going to be $20, and then I'll sign it, obviously, but I will ship a signed book for whoever you want for $25, so I can pay the shipping in the U.S. We have to figure out that international shipping thing. It's not inexpensive. Yeah, but I'll be glad to come over here and sign and talk to you all and hang out as long as you want. I really thank everybody for coming, and thank you all panelists. I know this was way more than your dinner is gonna be worth. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you coming out here on a Tuesday night and supporting me in this way. And thank you all out there as well. I feel a lot of love in this room. A lot of love in this room. I feel like a lounge singer. Well, what was yeah. All right. See, some people get it. Thanks, Sue. Thank you for laughing. Thank you for getting my joke from the 70s. I appreciate it. Shoup knows. I try to tell old people jokes all the time in class. And it's like crickets. It's like crickets. It's a funny joke. You all would laugh. But anyway, I'll be over here trying to feel whatever they have over there. Tip your waiter, waitress. Thank you.